Assistant Role webinar. I'm Nicky Christmas, founder and editor of Practically Perfect PA and the EA Campus, and welcome to our Friday webinar. I'm broadcasting live from Barcelona in Spain, and why don't you take a second on the chat to let me know firstly where you are from, where you're watching us from today, and if you can see me okay and hear me okay. As I always say on webinars, it's always great to talk, but I don't want to be talking to myself. So say hello, let me know where you're from, and if you can see me and hear me okay. So I'll wait for you to say hello because I'd love to see where some of you are watching from at the moment. Hi, Deborah, London. Hello. How's everyone doing in London? Hi from New York, Chicago, South Africa. Fantastic. Ghana. Wow, amazing. Edinburgh. Fantastic. And everyone can see me and hear me okay. That's good news. Fantastic. So we have quite a few of us joining us today, and it's lovely to see that you are joining us from all over the world. Amazing. Welcome, welcome. In today's webinar, we are talking about what you want from a new role, from a new assistant role specifically. And one of the most common interview questions that you often find, and let me know on the chat if this is absolutely the case for you, is your interviewer will say to you, so what do you want from a new role? So it makes a lot of sense to think about this before you embark on any job search. So we've got about 45 minutes today to talk about this topic, and I would love for you to get involved in the chat and share your experiences with each other. I've got a little presentation to share with you that might help you consider before looking for a new role what you want from a new role. So this is kind of pre-job search, and it's going to give you some interesting ideas to think about before you really even start looking for a new role. After we've done the presentation, I'd like to take some time to talk to you about our brand new online course, which is Accelerate Your Assistant Job Search. And I'm then going to open up for some questions. So if you have any questions for me about your current job search, or you might be in a role at the moment that you've just started and you're just getting settled in, then please do feel free to ask any questions on the chat. What we often find is that there are loads of other people on here who are absolute fountains of knowledge as well. So please do engage in the chat. Make sure that there's any questions that pop up and you know the answer to them, please do feel free to put your opinion in there or share any of your experiences as well. Okay, so before we get started, can you let me know on the chat if you are one of these three things? Number one, are you actively looking for a new role? Number two, are you thinking about moving into a new role? Or number three, not looking or thinking about moving into a new role, but you really enjoy Practically Perfect PA webinars and you're here for that. So all these answers are perfectly acceptable, but it just gives me a sense of where you are in terms of looking for a new job or thinking about starting a new job, or you just like Practically Perfect PA. So let me know on the chat. Brilliant. So Adele, number one, Deborah, number one, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Number three, Tanya, thinking about it would move internally. Okay, that's good to know. Actively looking for a new role. Fantastic. Susan, fantastic. Look, just love the webinars. Brilliant. I hope I don't disappoint. Okay, so while I'm waiting for a few more of you to let me know, I'm going to just load up some slides. Here we go. So I want to start by saying that this is that point in your careers when it's time to think about you. I know as assistants, this is not something that we do very often, but when looking for a new role, you must really, really reflect on what you want. Asking yourself this question, what do you want in your next assistant role, will not only help you understand what jobs to apply for, but it will also help you prepare for the interview process and everything else that follows. Now, Within this question, there are a few other questions that you can ask yourself to start to think about what you want from your next role. And I'm going to run through some of those now. So just to quickly go back to the chat, it looks like quite a lot of you are actively looking for a role at the moment. And some of you are thinking about it. So that's good, because this is great to think through these questions. Either when you're actively looking, you might not have thought of everything, and when you're thinking about looking. So let's dive in. Okay, this is the first question I'd like you to think about. Do you like the assistant role? Now, kind of controversial. I don't know if many of you have kind of given this much thought over the last few years, or at the start of your assistant career, if you thought about this one, or you didn't, or if you're halfway, you've been an assistant for a while, if you've ever stopped to think, do I still enjoy the role? So I think at the start of every job search, it's worth just having a think, do I still like the assistant role? The assistant position isn't for everyone. And also, it isn't always right at different points in your life. So in this webinar, I would love, as I said, for you to be interactive. And I'd love for us to work through these questions together. So in the chat, let me know if you still like what you do, if the assistant role is still for you. And if not, what else could you be doing? Or how would you transfer your skills? So in the chat, let me know if this is still something that's absolutely for you, or if you're thinking about maybe moving into a different role altogether. So Janice has said, redefine my current role. Love what I do. Yeah, yes, enjoy it. Thank you, Tanya. Chief of staff for now, Deborah, absolutely. That's something that a lot of assistants are thinking about at the moment. That chief of staff role over the last couple of years has absolutely become something that we've been talking about a lot more. It's become a lot more popular, and it makes a lot of sense. So absolutely. Still very passionate. I like what I do, but it's so far beyond the EA role that it needs a new title. Debbie, hallelujah. Thank you for saying that. I'm sure many of you would agree with that one. Redefining my current role, but it's only possible outside of the company that I work for. Just getting started, so definitely into it. Fantastic. That's good to know. Need to transition. Okay, so it sounds like this is a really good question just to pause and take that time to ask yourself, do you still like the assistant role? If the answer is yes, fantastic. If the answer is no, something different, what does that look like? And how do you go on that journey of looking for a new job when it's not the current job that you're doing, not the assistant role? So take some time to think that one through. Let's look at the next question. So who do you look up to? So for those of you who want to stay in an assistant role, or for those of you who want to transition out of it, this is a really good question to think about. It's always wonderful when you have a clear career path that you know you want to follow and you're focused on achieving those goals. But when you don't, it can feel a little bit unclear, can't it? It's, okay, I'm not sure where I'm going or what I want to do. So when you think about assistants that you've worked with in the past or in your current role, who do you admire? Who do you look up to? Who you thought was doing a great job or was able to take the role by the absolute scruff of the neck and make a success out of it? What did you admire about that assistant, or maybe chief of staff, or somebody that, a role that you want to transition into? What did they bring to that role that made them shine? Who did they work for? And did they have a good partnership? And then looking at someone you can emulate will help you define exactly what you're looking for. And this is the important thing, know that it's possible because you've seen it. So again, in the chat, let us know, let's shine a light on those people. Let us know about the kind of people that you've looked up to, and what the potential is in the assistant role, and what parts of their role would you like to take into your next role. I love that when you don't have an example, be an example yourself. I couldn't agree more with you on that one. Nobody else is going to drive your career forward apart from you. So you absolutely do need to be an example for yourself. Unfortunately, I've not met the assistant I would like to be, trying to enhance my current role. There's tons of examples out there. I must say, if you have a network on LinkedIn, there's always people out there that, particularly on LinkedIn, obviously it's career based, where you can really see what people are doing and some of the, things they put out on there, and some of the recommendations that other people have put on their LinkedIn profiles, or some of the things out there are really inspiring. So Anne Hyatt is an absolute perfect example of that, and Laura, absolutely. So Hallie is a perfect example. So yeah, be the ultimate assistant. Yes, there are a lot of pioneers out there, and there are a huge amount of people that are there and really shining a light on what is possible. So again, I think it's really important that you find somebody who has taken the career path that you would like to take. So again, it's pre-job search. Who do you look up to? And then have a think about how you can emulate that. It really gives you a clear path on what is possible, because so many of us have limiting beliefs on what is possible. And particularly when it comes to a job search, you can certainly feel unconfident in your skills and maybe settle for something when there is better out there, and there are more opportunities because you've seen it and you've seen other people do it. So the next question. What makes you happy? This is a big question, right? But it's essential to work in a role that brings you joy. It's true. I'm going to take a second just to stop and pause. We spend so much time working that our work, not always, but on the whole, should make us happy. So think about the elements of the assistant role that make you happy, that bring you joy, that you love to do, and go after that. Don't settle for just having a little of what makes you happy. You want to see a job description full of tasks and challenges that will make you satisfied. Again, in the chat, what makes you happy in the assistant role? Let's talk this one through. What makes you happy, and what would you like to do more of in the assistant role, potentially in your next job? So what have we got? I admire people. Oh, right. So, fantastic. Great. Susan's on there. Yolanda, you and my Susan. Susan's with us today. So isn't that just a beautiful, beautiful thing? So Abby, helping and supporting my executive, autonomy and helping people. I love that. Working from home 2 days a week and spending a bit of time with my kids. I love that. I love that you're thinking about that work-life balance, because, I'll come on to that in a little bit, but it's important, particularly since the pandemic. We've seen so many assistants saying, I want more flexibility. I want to be able to work from home every couple of days and see my kids, and not, have to be in the office, not have to be in there when my executive's in there and leave when my executive leaves. So I think for a lot of us, that's a big thing, because that, having that work-life balance and bringing your best self to both elements, your personal life and your professional life, it will make you happy. So I completely understand that one. Whatever takes me out of my comfort zone. I love challenges. That's fantastic. Being able to answer questions for our HR departments and supporting new hires, being helpful, useful, recognition and praise, and financial, of course. Feeling good when I walk in the door. I love it. These are all fantastic, fantastic examples. Let's have a look at the next one. So what do you want your day to look like? So again, this will give those of you who are unsure what move to make or where to focus. This is what you should be thinking about when you're looking at your new role. So consider what you want your day to look like. Do you want to work at 100 miles an hour, or do you prefer slow and steady? Do you want lots of interaction with those around you, or do you like a quiet office environment? Do you want to work from home? Do you want a hybrid environment? As I said, at this point, I think you need to think about everything that you want. What does the perfect day look like? Because compromises can come, And I think we can all agree that compromises will come. There will be something that you need to compromise about. There often is in a new role. But for now, think about what you want your day to look like. So have a think, what is your day going to look like? As I've said, think about the environment that you work in, the culture, how many people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, and really think about that and plan that out. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and then we'll come back and talk about these two questions. Do you want to advance your career? Now, if you want more challenges in your career or a higher salary or to work for, say, a more senior executive, think about how you want to advance your career. What will drive you forward? Now, again, let us know in the chat what advances you want in your career and be specific. Is it more challenging work? Is it a higher salary? Do you want to work in a different industry? Again, let us know and we'll go back and have a look to see what you put about the last question as well. So good mix of collaboration and solo work. Yeah, that's the kind of the dream, isn't it? Good collaboration and communication. Stephanie, is that with everybody in the organization that you work in, or communication and collaboration with your executive? Because again, they're two different things, aren't they? How important is it that the relationship that you have with your executive is collaborative? And then the wider aspect, how collaborative are you with a team that you're working with, or is it more of a solo role where you're supporting an executive who doesn't necessarily have a team around them? So again, it's just thinking about those kinds of things as well. Do you want to be part of a team? Are you happy to sit outside an executive's office where there isn't much of a team around you? Because both those roles are possible. So again, do you want to advance your career? Better salary and better recognition of the role. Oh, definitely everyone an exec. Absolutely. So again, think about that, because I remember going from a job where I was an EA to a director, but I was part of a team, and it was busy and it was social. And I organised a lot of the social activities, and it was fantastic. And then I went to my next role was with an executive who had a financial team, but they sat really far away from me. It was mostly just me and my executive, and we didn't really function as part of any other team. And I actually felt quite lonely. It was quite an isolating role. So my next role after that, I realised very quickly that I much preferred being around other people and having a social aspect. So I wish I was asked this question before I'd moved into that role, because I would have given it much more thought. So I'm preparing you and learning from my mistakes. Lizzie says, the industry of my dreams, collaboration and collaboration, mentor-mentee relationship, strategic partnership, and the salary that commensurates that experience. So I understand that, absolutely. These jobs are out there. They are out there. So the next question. So for those of you who want to advance your career, that's one thing. There's also a group of people that maybe want to do the opposite. They want more of a work-life balance. They might want to scale down the amount of work that they do and go for something that's less fast-paced, or something that gives you more freedom and a better work-life balance. Again, this is the point where you narrow down what you want your next role to look like and how it fits into your life, because now is the time to really think about that. Do you want, next question, slide. Do you want more responsibility? So what would it look like if you had a perfect assistant job description in front of you? What tasks and responsibilities would be on it? Who would you be working for? And what type of personality would they have? Again, another big, juicy question. What kind of personality would they have, the person that you're working with? Do you want to work for a CEO or a C-suite level executive? Do you want to work in a department or for a team, like I mentioned earlier? Do you want multiple executives? With your work, would you like to run projects, manage staff, use your creative juices, or do you prefer to number crunch and create systems and procedures? So what type of work excites you, and how much responsibility do you want? Now, again, in the chat, let's get specific. What work excites you? Have you seen any job descriptions on the market at the moment that has the tasks and responsibilities that would get you excited every day. So again, on the chat, let me know, have you seen a job description that has everything covered? Is that kind of elusive? Let me know on the chat your experience with that. And why don't you also let me know what type of personality you want to work with? We'll manifest all of this. All of these perfect jobs have to be out there for you. So Janice has said, I currently support all of our C-levels. That's 7 executives. So you've got all the personalities. I can only imagine. I can really only imagine what that is like. That's a lot of personalities for sure. And that's a big job. That is a big job. So Janice, kudos to you for working with 7 C-suite executives. That cannot be easy. So yeah, let me know in the chat what type of personalities you want to work for, and what kind of responsibility levels that you want in that next role. So what Stephanie said, I've worked in law for 33 years, doing is that a legal secretary and paralegal work for hard and easy people. Again, is that no, Janice is not. I can understand. No, is that something that you still want to continue to do? Do you want to move those skills into a different area? As I said, before you begin looking for a new assistant role, it's worthwhile defining what exactly you want from your new role and what your aspirations are for the future. And it's not just salary, but what you enjoy in your work. I think salary is incredibly important, but it's also important that you feel challenged, that you're respected, that the role is understood. All of these things are important, and that you have that, partnership with your executive who also really understands what you do and the value that you bring. So I hope these questions have helped you define what the new role will look like. And this really is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to crafting a job search that ends with you securing the job that you want. So I'm just going to take a quick moment to just get everybody up to date on the chat, because that was a kind of whistle-stop tour of some of the questions that you can ask yourself. But again, let me know on the chat if there are any other questions that you've asked yourself when you've started your job search, or now that you're thinking about your job search. Is there anything that I've missed? So Tanya said, a strategic powerhouse, smart and supportive, people-centered. I love that. And down to earth. Well liked by many, including me. Someone I could spend hours with if I need to, thinking about having to get a long flight with them. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of putting it. I love that. I love that you're really defining the kind of executive that you want to work for, because when we're in the interview process and you meet the executive and you hear about the job, sometimes it can be really easy, particularly if you don't like the job that you're currently in, or financially you need to move into a new role pretty quickly. It can be easy to kind of forget about some of the things that you know and are true to you. So sometimes, as I said, those compromises will come, but absolutely you can sometimes get to a point where you take the job and you know that you don't necessarily want that job. It's not quite right for you. So if you're constantly like you've done this preparation work, then you can refer back to that in your own mind and go, no, I'm going to wait if you can, or these compromises aren't enough, or can I change this role at the point before I decide to say yes? So it is more what I want, either through a salary negotiation or some added responsibility or some added things put onto the job description. So absolutely, these questions are so vital to do before you start any job search. So what is everybody else saying? I support C-suite execs plus and mum to 200 of our HR team. Bit overwhelming, but I'd miss the busyness if it changed now. Yep, I can completely see that. And that's, again, something, going into the next role, you like to be busy and you like to be kind of the center of a team. So don't compromise on that. It'd be really hard going into a job where you're the only executive, or you're the only EA or PA there. And it's quiet and you just have that one-on-one role. So as I said, these are absolutely some of the things to think about when you are starting to think about an assistant job search. So Moving on before we go to questions, we've put together a mini course for assistants who want to accelerate their assistant job search. And I'm going to show you a very quick video before I let you know a few more details. So, what can I tell you about the Accelerate Your Assistant Job Search course? So, to start with, it's £150 or 180 euros or 190 US dollars. We've put together 5 modules that cover every aspect of the search. We get you prepared for the search. So we cover more around this kind of topic where you really think about and hone down what you want. And then we look at how to craft your CV. We look at, or resume, I should say, for our American audience, and cover letter, how to conduct yourself in an interview. That's both a video interview, which obviously is incredibly popular now, and an in-person interview. What questions to prepare and ask at the end of the interview so that you get to ask the questions that you need to, so that you know exactly what the role is like and how to follow up. We have templates, checklists, and tools that you can use to quickly update all of the documents that you need before you go ahead and start that job search. And we show you how to get past all of the keyword algorithms on any recruitment site. So we have that covered as well. So as I said, the course is £150, 180 euros or $190. And you can access it for the lifetime of the course. So if you land the perfect job, which we absolutely hope that you do if you sign up to the course, and then in a few years you want to find another job, you can come back to the course and start afresh, and it will be waiting there for you. So I know I mentioned the price a couple of times, but because you lovely lot have joined me on our webinar today, we've got a further 20% discount for all of the attendees who have come onto the webinar today. So it's a very simple code to remember. It's webinar 20, and you can just pop that into the cart when you're paying, and you will get 20% off of the course. So this discount code is available until the end of next week. So please do use it, because it's a big discount, and for those of you who are looking for a job, then hopefully that will help you. The course is fantastic. It's so in-depth, and I really enjoyed putting it together. We've always had interview tips and prep up on Practically Perfect PA that have been there for years and have really helped an incredible amount of assistants find a new role and go in with confidence in the interview process as well. So I'd love to help more people get the jobs of their dreams. So please do think about joining the Accelerate Your Assistant Job Search course. Okay, so I would love to open up to questions. As I said, we've got about 15 minutes left. There's a clock up there, if anyone was wondering what I'm looking at. If you do have any questions about the course or about your assistant job search, really anything, let me know and I will try my best to answer them. Please just pop them on the chat. And as I said, if there's anybody else that has any knowledge or has recently gone through a job search or is currently in the middle of a job search and you can give some advice, we'd love to hear from you as well. So I will give way to any questions that you might have. Let's have a look. I don't know your name, unfortunately, but I was trained as a project manager when I first became an executive assistant. It's helped me throughout my career, and always looking for someone who appreciates my skill set. Yeah, I mean, what else have you trained on? Because I was exactly the same. I had project management training as well, and it really helped me. So again, shout from the rooftops if there are other skills that you have that might not necessarily be traditional assistant skills, and make sure you add those to your CV. If we do have any other questions, I'd happily answer them, or really any comments, then let me know. We've got about 15 minutes, so I'm here for anything that you might want to ask. Sarah said, is there a difference between assistant roles in public versus private organisations? For me, I think that assistant skills are incredibly transferable. I've worked in the public sector, and I've also worked in private organisations. I guess it kind of depends on industry to industry, and it also probably depends a little bit on country to country on that one. Kimberly, hi. Thank you for your comments. Yes, going back to Sarah's question, I think it depends, but with any industry, on the whole, I would say the assistant skills are incredibly transferable, and it really is one of the things that we should, really appreciate about the role. So I would say no. I would say on your CV, just make sure, and we cover this in huge amount of detail on the course, but make sure that you make your skills and your attributes to the organization that you work in really, really clear. So when you are going and applying for a job, say you're coming from the public sector going into private or vice versa, then make sure that the skills are upfront and they're in reflection to the job description. Because if the job description probably isn't going to say knowledge of the private sector or knowledge of the public sector, it's going to ask for a list of skills, and it's going to note down all of the tasks, and your job is to make sure that your CV reflects the job description. So when you're going forward for the role, the two combine and go through the algorithm through the either through the recruitment company that's advertising the role or directly with the employer. So I would say it's more important that you make sure the skills and tasks are aligned rather than necessarily whether it was public or private. So Janice says there is a different mindset in working in a corporate environment versus non-profit, but skills are the same. Management of people will be the same. I absolutely agree. I'd be interested to see if there are any roles out there where it's specific that you have to have had a public organization background or not-for-profit or charity. That might be the case. But as I said, you've got to align the skills, because that's ultimately more important. Debbie, do you have any advice on how to create a new job title above an executive assistant, especially in the new work environment? EA seems so limited. There's actually an article on Practically Perfect PA about this, and it's something that I encountered in my career. When you are doing, not necessarily going over and above what the executive assistant role is, because that's so wide, but doing things that are aligned to it or aside to it. So one of the things I often said is a good place to start, if you still want to be an EA and you don't want to come out of the role itself, but you are doing lots of other stuff and you want that recognized, is going in to negotiate a dual job title. So this happened twice for me. I was an executive assistant and administrative manager, where I was EA to a director of an organisation, but I also ran all of the administrative processes and procedures that were going on in that department. So I had a dual job title, and it helped enormously because I was EA, but I was a manager. I was an administrative manager. So for people who didn't really know what I did, it was a huge organisation, they saw the manager title, and that gave me, it's awful to say, isn't it? But that people understood that, oh, she's a manager. So you came with a certain level of respect when you were going into meetings and you were doing that aspect of the role. So that's something that I found really helpful. And then when I went into another role where I was doing an EA role, but I was also doing a ton of marketing, I made sure and I advocated for it that this is a separate job. So I need a different job title. I'll happily have the EA job title, but I also want marketing manager. And I advocated for that, and I split out the role and I listed all of my duties. Said, this is one job, this is another job. They need two job titles, but I'll have them as both. And they gave that to me, and it really helped again, because what you often find in organizations is that there is a payment structure in place for support roles that isn't necessarily there for other roles. So I was able to negotiate my salary increases, not on the EA role, because I'd already reached the highest point that they would pay an EA in the organization, but all of the additional duties that I was doing, they fell under a managerial role. So that really helped me. And actually it gave me confidence to go in and negotiate not a job title change, but almost just a shift. So I hope that helps, because I know there are a lot of assistants out there that are doing tons of other stuff that go over, not necessarily over and above the assistant role, but are aside to it. So what else have we got? I currently have an application in for a new role with my company. Any advice for what to do in the waiting period? That's a good question. So keep looking for other roles, I would say. Don't stop. Keep applying for things, because sometimes you're waiting quite a long time for a reply. And unfortunately, the way the world works at the moment, sometimes you don't get a reply back to say whether or not you've been successful, moved to the next stage or not. So absolutely keep looking for different roles. And then I think another thing that I would do is, because it's good practice, is have a think about the kind of questions that would come up in the interview for that role, for that job, and practice them, because any interview practice is well worth doing. So again, go through the job description, have a look at the organisation, get into a practice where you're able to really quickly research the organisation that you want to work for. Because what you might find is, if you don't get this role, you might find that they put your CV forward for a different role in that organisation, and then the prep's already done. So I would do that as well while you're waiting, but absolutely keep applying for new roles as well. What else have we got? Negotiating is the hardest part for me. I can champion other people, but never do that for myself. I would love a class webinar on negotiating for salary. So we cover this on the course. It's tough. I know, I completely understand. There's something that happens when we're talking about money and salary that makes us uncomfortable. And I absolutely can relate to that. I found it really tough when I was an assistant. I found it really tough when I started Practically Perfect PA. And I still find it difficult. So I completely sympathise with that. The thing is, with organisations, they know that we find it difficult. They know that we do. So I give lots of advice on how to be confident in negotiating your salary, and how to do it on two fronts, either in person or online or by email. So we cover that in a lot of detail. But the one thing I would say is, you have to do it. If you see a role and it's in a salary bracket, I always suggest you negotiate for that top of the bracket, because first of all, I know that you're worth it. You absolutely are. And if they've already said that they want you to work for them, then they know you're worth it. But because they know people find salary negotiations difficult, they'll come in at a lower price. So always negotiate your salary. I know it's difficult. We cover it, as I said, in a lot of detail on the course. But it's something that you have to do, and it's something you have to get comfortable with. And another way of getting comfortable with things is practicing. So try and maybe do some, I know this is, I hate doing role play, but it really helps. Maybe just get somebody to sit down and run through it, so that your brain starts to process that you're going to do it. So then you have the confidence to do it when you're in front of a different person. But I understand that. I do. It's tough. But if you want the salary that you want and you're not being offered it, but you know it's available, you've got to negotiate. So what are your top tips for getting on top of nerves in an interview? Similar to negotiating, Charlotte, practice. Practice. I would also say do your research on the organisation. go in, you know they're going to ask you, what do you know about the organization? So do a lot of research who is going to interview you, and you absolutely within your rights to ask. Find out who is going to interview you so that you can go and have a look at their LinkedIn profile, get a sense of who they are. Have a think about the questions that you're going to be asked and prepare those. And again, one of the things that we have on the course is a list of questions that you usually get asked at an assistant interview, and we prepare answers for you as well. So I used to use those answers whenever I was interviewed for an assistant role, and it really helped me to have them prepared and I used to write them down so that I'd kind of two ways of learning. I'd write them down and then I'd reread them, and I'd read them over and over again so that I would kind of almost remember my answers. And that really helped me with my nerves. That was one thing. The other thing that I used to find difficult in the interview process was getting red and hot and flushed, those kind of feelings that you get when you're nervous and losing track of what you were saying. So for me, preparing helped a lot. It really did, because I was able, like I said, to almost remember what I was going to say for each question that came up. And then in terms of what my body was doing, it was not easy, but you kind of have to go with it, because if you don't, then it gets worse. So I found that a lot. If someone like me suffers with like a flushed neck, I used to wear a scarf so that if it was kind of creeping up my neck, then it would kind of cover it, and I'd know that nobody could really see that was happening. If your voice got a bit shaky, I would just pause for a minute, take a breath, and then go again. And what I also find in interviews, depending on who's interviewing you, they love to talk. So let them talk. Just while you're kind of like, breathing and steadying yourself, let the interviewer talk. Because it takes up some time. So just use that space to take a deep breath and try and center yourself and then go. Because the thing is, you've got to remember with interviews, you're not there just to sell yourself. The interviewer is there to sell the organization to you. It's a two-way process. Okay. They're absolutely lucky to have you. So always remember that as well. They're lucky to have you. And I'm sure that will help. But I understand it's nerve-wracking, but prepare. How long we've got? A couple more minutes. Role playing, yep, absolutely. It does really help. So I just started, Kimberly said, I just started a new job, go through each job duty required and listing my past employees who gave me the experience, write the names in colour ink to make it stand out, and they were impressed. Yet be prepared for questions for them. Absolutely. Again, on the course, we have a ton of questions that you can ask that make you look super smart and switched on. So I check those out. I'd also say with interviews as well, get there a little bit early. Don't go in rushed. Go and find the bathroom. Make sure that you're comfortable in what you're wearing. Take a couple of minutes to just do some breathing in the bathroom. I know this is going to sound a bit crazy, but look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you've got this. That really helps. So there's lots of ways that you can prepare yourself for interviews and get over the nerves. Also, I've noticed this a lot over the last few years. Take your notes in. Take your notes in. Take a copy of your CV and give that to everybody in case they don't have a copy of it. And take in a portfolio so that you've got something that you can demonstrate, some of the things you've done, some of the skills you have. So you look super prepared. It's going to give you something that probably a lot of other interviewees don't and haven't done. And it's something that the interviewers can take away with them so that they remember you. Oh, that's the candidate that brought in their portfolio. Particularly if you like bind it and it's colourful, then that's something that they're absolutely going to remember you for. So try and stand out as well. And something like that really helps. Your personality tests that you've done, that kind of thing. And some of the work that you're proud of. Okay. Icebreakers are nice to ask people how their day is going. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. That's a very good one. It does break the ice, and then it becomes like a nice conversation to be had. So, okay, I think that's all the time we've got. Bang on 45 minutes, and it is a Friday. So, who doesn't like to finish up early on a Friday? If you do have any questions about anything that we've covered on the webinar today, or the course, or anything to do with Practically Perfect PA, then you can find me at nikki@practicallyperfectpa.com. I'm always available, so please do get in touch if you have any other questions, as I said, about the course or really anything to do with Practically Perfect PA. For those of you who want to come to our next event, we've got a virtual summit next Thursday, which is all around assistant strategies for success. It's £50 for a whole day's worth of training. So would love to see some of you there. If not, there's actually a free webinar coming up in 2 weeks. So hopefully I'll see you on that one. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. It's been an absolute pleasure spending the last 45 minutes with you. And thank you for everybody who contributed on the chat as well. Enjoy your day.